I think that all people in advertising have the worst vocabulary in the world, and that brilliantly described by a colleague of mine in London as it's like the vocabulary of astrology. Now if you use phrases like, well, of course you'd expect him to do that because he was born on the cusp, or his behaviour was typically Sagittarius, okay? Now, if you use that phrase to a fellow believer in astrology, they will nod along and go, absolutely right, it's wonderful. And we've created a vocabulary with which we can talk to each other, and we all nod along happily. Outside marketing and advertising, that vocabulary is both terrifying and ridiculous.
True.
Now, I'm literally talking to a finance director about brand iconography is like going to the head of thoracic surgery at St Mary's Hospital, Paddington, and saying, you must trust to the healing power of the crystal. and that kind of divide, I think, if we can actually borrow from the language of network theory, from economics, punk economics, from the social sciences, and use that vocabulary rather than the ghastly vocabulary. If we could do that, I genuinely think it could change our world. Quite a lot of the work we do now is a mixture of cake and icing. You know, the barbell strategy, which is you put 80% of your budget into things that you know work and that are proven, and you put 20% of it into sort of experimentation. You know, there's advertising which actually sort of carries the load, and there's stuff which adds the magic. Now there's the danger that whenever a budget gets cut by 20%, it doesn't get cut proportionately, but everybody kills the icing and leaves the cake.
Yeah.
And without that, you've got a workable solution, but your chance of massive upside has suddenly disappeared. An expedient suit will go, well, that's fine, we've still got 80% of it. A really good suit will say, no. You need to preserve 5 of these experiments, a bit of the icing, alongside the cake, otherwise cake is basically unedible. Good science is your friend. Neoclassical economics, which is based on the idea that every consumer makes a decision based on perfect information, which is a situation which in the real world occurs never. Okay. That is the dominant model of economics taught in business schools, and it's poisoned the whole thing. But good science, the people who actually question this model, punk economists, other people like that, are actually, to an extraordinary degree, I think, our friends. I mean, one of the interesting things, you know, an argument from science is that actually advertising to be effective, you know, needs to be apparently expensive sometimes. There is a value to media expenditure that actually the perception of something that appears on television is not the same as something that appears in a viral ad occasionally.